What's up, everybody? Welcome to the morning after live session here on Zach's Live Trader, where we're going to go ahead and dig into some of the market reaction to Priceline, Nvidia, and talk about all sorts of wonderful stuff that people want to talk about. So, as always, there's about a 30-second delay from when I say something to when you guys hear it. But the live chat I've got up and running, so you'll hear me clicking like right now where I say, hey, everybody. And you'll notice when that pops up versus when you actually hear me say that I was typing, hey, everybody. I'm going to wait a couple, like a minute or two for people to just kind of trickle in. I see we got a few people here, but I'm just going to go ahead and wait a little bit. In my email, so this is one of the things that, let's see, made me hesitant about doing these morning after things in the first place. And that was my tendency to be grumpy, depending on what the market does in the morning. So, today I got a little bit of Grumplestiltskin going on here. I'll be okay though. I'm gonna try not. Not gonna ruin your morning or anything. It might be hilarious actually. It's just normally when things don't go my way, I find myself waking up and swearing at the computer screen. So I'm gonna try to avoid that today at all costs. But I'm sure you'll be able to sense a little bit of the frustration in my voice when I'm going through a few of these things. So. Good morning, everybody. Like I said, going to give just a couple of minutes for people to trickle in. Now, throughout the course of this live Q&A, can't do it without you guys. We need some cues so I can bring some answers for you. So, if you have any questions, like it really doesn't matter. Just kind of throw them out there in the chat. I'll try to get to them at some time today. And I try to address pretty much everything, try to just let you guys sort of steer this conversation of where you want it to go, and then I just kind of go there, okay? So why don't we go ahead and get started here? And first, talk about Priceline, since I've got Priceline up here, and I was going back over what our trade was that we were talking about on Priceline. Now, recently what I've been doing is I've been giving you 4 different trade options. I give you a bear credit, a bull credit, as well as a bear debit and a bull debit, and then I give you my humble bearded opinion as to which one of those bad boys I think is going to work out. So if you remember with Priceline, it was a very expensive options chain. And we were putting together these call spreads, and I was like, geez, who's going to, we're not going to put on a $1,800 call spread here. Because like I was saying, I try and keep these, I want you to be able to do these with a couple $100 if you are one lotting, right? Because I don't want you to sit here and totally just get destroyed, right? Okay. So the one I officially said, okay, I think you guys should do that one, was the credit bull spread, the bull credit spread. So that was shorting an out of the money put spread, right? And in this case, I went down to 1820. Let me get my Epic pen out. We got to do this proper. 1820 by 1817.50 for a 65-cent net credit. And if you look here on the put side, now this is bar chart, so we got a little bit of a delay here, but this shouldn't be too bad. So the market, we basically went down to where the market was pricing in, sort of the at the money straddle was pricing in. So 1820, so we sold past the 1820, and this is what we got going on right now. And if you were in this, even though Priceline is off so much, it's trading 45 cents right now, right? And all you need to cash in on this is shares of Priceline have to close at or above. Wait, is this 1820? Yeah, the 19th. Okay, at or above 1820 at expiration. So let's take a live look in on Priceline first. So first quarter, they actually beat. They beat earnings. They beat our Zacks consensus estimate. So that's interesting to see. Revenues 2.42 billion, and they missed on revs, right? So that's a problem. So if you beat on EPS and you miss on revs, market doesn't like that. How much doesn't the market like this? Let's see if I can get a 1 minute chart up here. There we go. Now we're on a 1 minute chart. So we are in it right now. Huge gap down to open at 1853s. Found its way all the way down to 1809. And now it's starting to tick up a little bit, right? Just ticking up, ticking up a little bit. I don't know why they're beating up Priceline so much. I guess the revenues, right? Whatever. It's 5% is what it is. Yeah, man, you guys doing these lotto things, you like 1 out of 5 of those maybe should work. Like those are, like by definition, supposed to be something that just does not happen that often. But I give it to you guys because people really like the home run. So anyway, so with Priceline chopping around a little bit, this is one of those things where you're almost expecting it to creep on back down to this 1808 today, kind of retest it and then see what happens. And if it does get back to 1808 and then catches a bid, that's a very good thing, a very good sign for anybody on that bull put spread for sure. Okay. Now the other thing is, if you're in the bull put spread right now and you're looking at this big down day, I wouldn't go freaking out just yet. Because remember, you sold the put spread, right? So time is on your side. So you have another week. You just got to relax and just kind of let the thing do what it's going to do. Now, the intraday high here, Tuesday, March 28th, this is where we drew that nice little topside resistance. 1798 is the high there, okay? And then we had our fib at 1815. There you go. And then here, again, we got down to 1801 throughout the course of the day today. So still kind of holding up here at that resistance level, or support level rather. So we'll see. We'll see. Now, for some shorter term ideas, post earnings, because now we already know what happened, right? On the earnings report, we see where Priceline is. We see what it's done so far today. So what I'd be looking to do here is I'd wait to see if Priceline starts to trickle back down here throughout the course of the day. Remember, it's Wednesday, right? So if you're looking for a play for this Friday's expiration, you've got a couple of days. All right? So now we're down here. So if this stock comes down, kind of retest that, and then finds a bid, then I'd be looking to sell put spreads out of the money here. You can still get away with that going into Friday. Another thing that you can do. So in that case, if these are down at 18, you can even go down below kind of the low of the day here where we're at. So where's the low of the day? Like I said, 1801, something like that, right? So if this thing holds up, you you should be looking down here. Well, we're going to do this. We're going to shoot ourselves in the foot by doing the show all on the Priceline, right? We do the show all on the Priceline, and let's see what else we got going on here. Go ahead. It's going to take a little bit for these guys to load up and give it a shot. Okay, let's see. Let's go Google Chrome. There we go. All right. So, all the way down to the puts, all the way down to 1800. And let's see what's going on with these guys. Down at 1800. Maybe there's something attractive down here. I don't know. So if we do 1800s, just one over, you're only getting 30 cents there, right? That may not be that attractive at 30 cents. But again, this was that front week, and I think there was a reason why we didn't do the front week last time. Let's look at the 19th. The spreads were better over there, remember? So let's look at that again. Let the 19th load up and see if there's something down there. Now, we have 1820, 1850 that we're, or 1820, 1750 that we were looking at. Now, if you already have that on, I wouldn't double down because all you're doing is increasing the amount of risk that you have. But if you're like somebody here, you know, didn't get filled, haven't participated in this, and maybe you want to make a couple bucks after as it starts moving, this is something that you can look to. Spreads are still pretty wide here. See, the spreads are widening. So that's not the greatest. It's not what you want to see as these spreads continue to widen. Now, in a fantasy world, we get filled here. I don't know that you're going to get filled on this. So this is 1800, 1797.50. And the difference between the midpoints right now is 65 cents. So that's almost like an exact replica of the trade that we were talking about heading into this. I don't know, and this doesn't concern me. Like, you'll get filled at 740 on that all day. It's this one that's bugging me from 760 to 850. I don't know that they're going to be that nice and get you filled at 805, right? But even if you got filled at 790, right? Let's say you got filled at 790 selling that. That would still be 50 cents, right? So in that case, it's 50 cents and you have $2 at risk. So you can make 25% there, and you just need Priceline to stay at or above 1800 over the next few days, right? 7 days in this case. 8 days counting today. Because look, see, we're bouncing here a little bit. So that's, I think, what I'd be looking for. Something out of the money here, right? And again, only if you didn't. Because it's very tempting. So on other stocks, what we like to do is we like to see this move. And who did we do it with? Starbucks, right? Starbucks, the other day we were talking about it. Something that I like to do is I'll go in the front week. This is only like 3 days away. And I'll go a little bit out of the money and buy a call that's a little bit out of the money. Now with Priceline, I think that the cost is going to be a little bit prohibitive for us just because of how expensive these Priceline options are overall, right? These things are not cheap. So a little bit out of the money here, I don't know, 1850s, 1900s. Take a look at what these are. And they're still, like, this is absurd. Like, look at how much money this is, right? Even the 1900, it's like $4,400, right? I mean, come on. We're not going to do that. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, these have to, I don't think these have adjusted yet. Maybe they have. Anyway, so that's why I think with a stock like Priceline, it's much easier to just go ahead and sell that out of the money, put spread, you know, one that's down here, and hope that it never comes back down there, right? But the thing is, you might get stuck there a little bit. You might be stuck until expiration, which is fine. Trevor, you think it's coming all the way down to 1,700? Was it that bad of a quarter? I mean, I really just kind of, live, I'm looking at this reaction here, and I was looking at what we had to say about it. And they kind of beat them up. You know who got beat up way worse than Priceline? Yelp. Woof. So Yelp shareholders basically figured out that there's this search engine called Google that could probably do most of what Yelp does. But again, so here's something interesting. So they have this big gap down. They're down 18% here. Low 26.95. So I'd be waiting to see if this kind of runs out of gas, stalls out, comes back down here. Now remember last week, what were we talking about last week, guys? The VWAP. So we do have a dip down below the VWAP, kind of struggles at it, and then rallies up. So what I'd be looking for here is wait for this to come back down to touch the VWAP. And then I'd be doing my sneaky little trick that I like to do, where we go a little bit out of the money on a call and roll the dice that way. Now, I want to give some justification to the risk management of doing the trade that way, okay? So Yelp 28.50, and then if you look here, there's a 28.50 call at 20 cents. Now this is not live, right? So I would need to see, I'd need to pull up my E-Trade Pro, and then we'd be able to do this much more proper. But you get my point, right? Is to just find that. Okay, so now I want to give you guys risk management in the terms of the stock world. So let me just use these numbers just to illustrate my point. So we're going to call this 50 cents. We're going to call this 28.50, 20 cents, okay? And we're going to use the fantasy world assumption that I got filled at 20 cents. Now we're going to go back to the chart. Okay, so situation A. A is the option, right? I wish I could find a way to actually draw better on this so I don't look like I'm like a 4-year-old kid with a crayon. But, deep down, I think I am a 4-year-old kid with a crayon. So, if you go with the option, my downside is 20 cents, right? My break even is 28.70, right? And my upside is unlimited, right? So that's why I like doing that with a call option there that's going to expire really quickly. Now, flip side, let's say I went long 100 shares at 28.50. Well, not even 28.50. Let's just say it was at 28.30 when I bought that 28.50 call, right? Let's just say that just to make the numbers. So for me to lose, so if I lost 20 cents, like the option was at, right? This would just have to go to 28.10. So I'm out, right? I'm out because I have to manage my risk by cutting bait if it gets down there. Whereas if I held that option, this thing could go all the way down to 26 and then come back up and I'm still in the game, right? So that's why I like using options to mess around with stuff like this, following up on, their earnings, because you clearly define what your risk is going to be. You have unlimited upside potential. Now, granted, your break even basically gets pushed out a little bit further, but I think that's a small price to pay given the rest of the risk parameters they could put in there for you. Okay, and specifically, I'm talking about this kind of scenario, this post earnings, big gap down, and then you're rolling the dice hoping that it's going to creep on back up, right? Specifically with that. Because then you're not on the hook for all the downside that could potentially happen after that, right? So again, situation like this, wait for this to come on back to the VWAP and then see where those calls are at. Now, this could break on down through the VWAP and then come down for another retest down here, right? So that's another risk, is that it comes down to retest there. And if you want to be more patient, you can do that too, okay? The other thing you could do is, I mean, this is another scenario where you could put on a straddle after the earnings report in the hopes that it follows through and goes in one direction or the other. But I would tell you that overall, the odds are that it, starts to retrace a little bit. Now, this is on Yelp. Now, we didn't cover Yelp, and I just started spouting off about Yelp without actually digging in the details on the earnings report. Now, I did read a couple of headlines where they were talking about that this was all because of weak guidance, because they're saying Google's going to eat their lunch, right? Is that what's happening? So they beat estimates on EPS, missed on revenue, and then now look at the guidance. Second quarter net revenue between 202 and 206 million, well below current consensus estimate at 215. And again, Google was to blame if you really started digging in a lot of this. It's just Google. I'm assuming Yelp would have been a good straddle. There's no way of me knowing that without seeing the historical prices on these options. But yeah, I mean, retrospect, right? I don't even know. Does anybody use Yelp? I do. I use Yelp. I go on there and I just check out, like, if there's like a restaurant I'm trying to check out, I'll look at Yelp real quick to see if people hate it. So I guess I do. The Google reviews too. It's the thing when you do the Google review, there's just not as much data yet. Or at least that's been in my experience, as there's not as much data yet. So, okay. Let's talk about the reason why I'm swearing this morning. Nvidia. But sort of the detailed reason of why I'm swearing. I mean, this is like, how do I was hoping this would be very cathartic for me. Like I would be able to work through my problems here with you guys. So this is what we're going to do, right? As painful as this is. I knew a guy who back here, that's right, get the big one, not that big. I knew a guy who back here went on Bloomberg television and was a two-fisted bull on Nvidia. Very bullish, very happy about being bullish. And then, of course, Nvidia has a fantastic report, skyrockets. And then it came back on again, I think. It was bullish again, and it went up again. And somewhere along the way, I lost my way. And I don't know what my problem is. This is now literally, like, I still have a bullish underlying current for the company, and I try to get too cute on these earnings reports, and I end up outdumbing myself. Not outsmarting myself, no, outdumbing myself. So I flip-flopped on them. I ended up being bullish on them, and so first I go bearish on them. I think I was bearish here, and they skyrocket. Right? Then I went, you know what, forget it. I'm going to go bullish on these guys because I never should have doubted them. And then the thing drops. And then this time I'm like, no, you know what, this is being carved in. I think they are going to go down. And what happens? They slap me in the face again. So now this is 3 times in a row that I've been wrong consecutively on Nvidia. So stupid. Wrong on them, even though I love the company, right? So I don't like what's going on, Dave. So the reason for the really big bullish report here was that they're realizing that, hey, their chips are awesome, right? Which I knew their chips were awesome, and that they're constantly opening up these new markets. So before, if you were a gamer, you used NVIDIA cards. I have an NVIDIA card here in my laptop. I have an NVIDIA card on my desktop. Pretty much they are the cream of the crop when it comes to not just gaming cards, but also workstation cards. So what I mean by workstation card is if you're a video guy that does rendering, right, then you likely have an NVIDIA workstation card, right? So there's that. So they do great in that space. And then they're like, oh, hey, by the way, we can help you with this whole autonomous driving thing because you can use our chips to go ahead and do the calculations for all of this fantastic autonomous car driving stuff you got going on. That was a market where we knew was open, but I figured that a lot of that was going to come further down the line, and I think even in the report, NVIDIA admitted that, like, yeah, you know what, down the line, that's when the revenue, we're going to see a lot of revenue from that, right? But now it's all about this machine learning and deep learning and crazy computing and data centers that are filled with these cards so that you could do this. And so now that's opening up a whole new avenue for their business, which is fantastic. And this is all stuff that this guy I knew was talking about in February. And for some reason, this guy forgot all about that once we got here. Okay. Really, what was it, though? And I'm breaking this down because I don't know. I just want to show you guys that it's not... I think about this stuff a lot, right? I don't like just sit around for 5 minutes, put together a video, and then all of a sudden, we're on it. What I do is I labor over these sometimes. And a stock like Nvidia, literally keeps me up at night, because I'll be like, I don't know. So this whole thing that was transpiring, this sort of negative trend that was developing, and it was kind of wedging out, right? Because the bids came in here, but these kept on going lower. I didn't like that look. Did not like that look at all. And then this big gap down here where it was always calling my name, and I was like, man, gaps get filled. They always get filled, and that's all the way down there, and that's frightening to me. And then what I was hearing was this revenue guidance is not all that good if you start looking out towards the future. You know what? Let me load up. I'm going to load up the super duper one right now. Let me give Zach's research system, ZRS, a chance to go ahead and load up. But while I do that, we're just going to use the detailed estimates. Oh, that was quick. We're going to use the detailed estimates page on Zax.com and sort of see what we got here. So you guys can see what the heck was. Of course, I did go through this with you guys already. But so this was it. This is all about the revenue. And I saw this forecast of this slumping revenue growth. And then the current year was, it's still going to be 16.5, but then next year's not going to be so good. So I saw that, and I got shook. Because slowing revenue growth was one of the concerns that people had that put this cap on Nvidia and started to bring it down. So I was like, if those concerns are still out there, and these guys come with it here on this slower quarter, it's going to be terrible. So that's what I was worried about looking at Nvidia. Now let's pull out the real big stuff. Let's go to actual revenue here on Nvidia so we can see. Did this update? Is this April? Yeah, 1 point. Was that the number? I got to double check this. We got to look at this immediately. Was that the revenue number that they had? Because if it was, then I am shocked that this thing updates that fast. I didn't think it'd update that fast. Let's see what they say. So 82 cents, we got that. Huh, this chart look familiar, my friends? That's right, they're using the same stuff I'm using. I'm not the only one using this. 19.1 was that revenue. Okay, 1.937. I think that was the number. 1.93. Okay, so there you go. So they do have this updated, right? So here it is. So I blame that number for swaying me. 4.3% was the revenue growth that was forecast. And they came in with what? 48%? Did somebody skip a decimal? Did they forget a number? Or did they just leave me out to dry so I could look like an idiot? I don't know. But somebody is going to get yelled at. If I could find who to beat up right now, I'd beat them up. 48.4% revenue growth is what they come in at. 48%. How on earth are you wrong by that much? Consensus. So 4.23, so not 4.3. It's supposed to be 4.23 for next quarter. Well, this is next quarter. This is going out. Okay, hang on. So there's a reprieve right here, right? They updated this already. But I seem to remember that before we had revenue growth that was out there that was very low, right? Anyway, infuriating. So now here's the good news. We can get back on the bandwagon because here, revenue growth. Here they say it's going to be bad, but we know it'll be good. So they're still talking about it slowing out here, but I think they're full of it. And if you look here, boom, big growth there. So this is what I think happens. It was Bolin. Ah! He's one of my very good friends at Zach's, so I should call him up and yell at him. I think Nvidia keeps a little in the baggie and a little in the purse. They kind of hold it back, and then go oh, surprise! We found this whole new revenue stream. Found another $600 million that we didn't know was going to happen. And if you notice, it's I think they sandbag because now they're oh yeah, dude, we got a bunch of money coming to them. Now, granted, this is because they update the architecture on their chips. But here's a question I was having, basically. I'm brushing my teeth yesterday, looking in the mirror. And I started thinking, yo, what about Intel? Okay, so if people are using NVIDIA's graphics chips to do all sorts of advanced calculations and deep learning and things like that, what's so different, drastically different, in the architecture of one of their graphics chips that could not be adapted at all ever to dig into Intel's market right now? Because if you look, AMD makes graphics chips and graphics cards, but they also do your regular CPUs. And in case you're wondering, AMD's up a little bit on this news as well. Even after a drastic kind of dip here. AMD, I feel like these AMDs just, there's something about the way they run the show at AMD that's just off-putting to me. So, all right. Back to Nvidia. Now that I'm done whipping myself, let's see what happens. These guys are on a run. They are on a tear, and I don't know that they're going to look back. The same guy that I know that was bullish Nvidia here, I'm pretty sure I wrote something when I first got bullish here and it came down that Nvidia was going to be 250 by the end of the year. That's something that I went out on a limb and I wrote, and people thought I was a maniac. I think it still might happen. just given that, and I know it's like, Dave, how do you turn about and do a 180? It was purely technical, my bearishness, and it was also based on that revenue thing. So now when we see that revenue in the past, I mean, I just think this, who's going to get in their way? So maybe it's time to and it was a Zach's ranked number 4 sell too, so that had something to do with it, you know. Was led astray. What the heck is going on here? What, we got a surprise every day now? Somebody messed up the chart. Who messed up the chart? Let's just do pricing consensus. Maybe that won't have all of these mistakes. There we go. Look at that, man. So I got sold on the 4. I got sold on the revenue coming down, and I thought that the market was going to beat them up a little bit more. Now what you're going to see in Nvidia is all of these are going to go to the upside. This is going to be like this. It's all going to be, and this thing is just going to keep on trucking. Okay. So how are you going to make money post earnings on Nvidia? Does this thing come back down after being up in the stratosphere? Here's the gap. Mind the gap, folks. 1114 or 114. Okay, 114. So what I would do here is I'd take a look. Let's open up the Nvidia. I think the top or the bottom end of that gap may hold up. We got to see what that does today. So this is the important thing. We have to see if this holds today. So you know eventually these guys are going to run out of gas a little bit. I'd like to see what happens down here. If it bounces at 114, I think it's very bullish a bounce at 114. Okay. If it gets into this gap, it's going to fill all of the gap, right? If it gets in here, it's going to do all this. I don't think it happens. I think they bid it here at the gap. If you see a ton of volume there, now it's starting to stall out a little bit, maybe 114s. And if you look 114s out of the money puts, you got a little bit of juice there right now. So that might be a way to play it, right? The other thing is, guys, if you're bullish long-term on Nvidia and you got a few bucks, there's nothing wrong with selling the 110 put just naked. And then, worst case scenario, the stock gets put to you at 110. Your cost basis is going to be 109.71, and you got 100 shares of Nvidia. So on a stock where you're overall bullish, and then this is if you're going to hold something a little longer term. I don't know what you guys are out here doing. If you're just, these are all short-term kind of things. But just throwing it out there. There's an idea. But look at what Nvidia did today. Rally, came back to the VWAP. They bid it at the VWAP. I think they're going to bid the VWAP all day. All day, my friends. Nvidia is in play. And if you're looking on the flip side, right, if you think it goes higher, I don't know that it goes much further past 120 or even out to 125. I mean, so you can sell further out of the money calls maybe if you wanted to. There's too much juice here to buy one of these and hope for it to keep on going up, I think. I don't know. That's a huge move for Nvidia. Big time move. Big time. Okay. So let's see. I'm gonna dig in here, try to answer a few questions, guys. So I hope we got a couple of trade ideas here today, also, because that's always good. Any chance of Priceline going back up by expiration? I guess you need to clarify how far up is. Do we see Priceline back? Are they going to retrace 5%? I don't think so. I think because the guidance is negative, I think they deserve some of this whooping that they're getting. I don't think they deserve all of the whooping, right? But again, if it just comes to test this gap, that's 1150, or 1850, that's $30 out. So that might not be bad. Okay. Let's see, Lotto's Friday spread. I covered a couple of Friday spreads. Kurt took a small L. Man, you know, ugh. That's why we use options to do this, though, right? Because you're limiting your risk. You know exactly what your risk would be to the downside. Take two. Look at that. How have they smoothed their revenue like that? You know, I'm going to look at their revenue for Take Two because I know they are lumpy. They have some super lumpy revenue at Take Two because, you know, hey, a new GTA came out, you make a bunch of money, and then, you know, what happens? And look, this is lumpy. So there's got to be there's some big release coming. The December quarter of 2018 that they already know about. And then it just looks like kind of ho-humming it from there. Good numbers, though. Look at that. Except for 2019. I think the 2019 numbers just aren't in yet. That's all that is. But this is really nice revenue growth here for Take-Two. And so is this when we're getting GTA 6? When is Take-Two going to report? Let's see. $67. 23rd. Okay. Well, hey guys, you know we are looking for ideas of what to do. I'm gonna throw it out here. Throw it out there. Should we do Take Two next week? Or is it next week? Should we do Take Two in 2 weeks? I'll throw it out there. Because I don't want to give it away. How about, you know, we'll probably end up doing it. So this is on a Tuesday. It's going to be after the market closes on a Tuesday. So we could either do it like the Tuesday morning. It also could be a Friday show or even the Monday. Like I said, I don't like doing the Mondays. I like to ease into my Mondays, folks. I like to ease into it. And I got all sorts of other stuff popping off that I don't get to. So we'll see. We'll throw it out there. See if you guys want to do Take Two. Because I don't want to get too far into this right now if it's something that we're going to do. But if you find a reason to be bullish on it, then why not selling out of the money put spread? I'm just going to quickly look at the price consensus EPS surprise. They got some growth. They got beats and they got growth, right? This is interesting. Look at boom, crash, and then we're just waddling around, and then that might be a good one to talk about. Okay, so Take Two. So we'll see. I don't have a good beat on Take Two just by looking at this very quickly, so. But a good suggestion nonetheless, so thank you for that. What else are we talking about here? Talked a little Intel. But yeah, Nvidia looks like it's breaking 120. Netflix. I haven't talked about Netflix in a while. Look at these guys. It's like they retreated a little bit and then like nope, we're going higher. Just a total switcheroo there. And look at where they bounced. They bounced right at that 23.6 fib. Isn't that amazing when they do that? And then now they're breaking out to the upside. Wow. My question is, why doesn't somebody buy Netflix? Like somebody that really needs. So you got, I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, so Amazon's got their whole, they're just going to take over the world. They're just going to do everything on Earth. And then there's all these rumors like, hey, why doesn't Apple buy Netflix? Right? Why doesn't Apple buy Netflix? Why doesn't Apple do something with the $250 billion that they have? I don't know. They think they got better ROI. You don't have better ROI. The best ROI in the game is definitely Jeff Bezos over at Amazon, right? Despite what the real number is. I know somebody's going to be like, well, actually, the real number is like, dude, I don't care about that. I'm saying just in life, you know? Activision. You guys keep asking about Activision, and I don't know. I've just avoided these gaming stocks. I haven't really talked about them too much. Activision. Okay, well, we're going to make sure, you know what? We're going to address gaming because it sounds like you guys really want me to address some gaming stocks. So I will. We're going to do that. We're going to dig it. And that Avatar, come on, Dave. ATVI. I used to be able to type. Okay, there we go. Activision. So I just missed their earnings, right? Because you guys were asking about that. So then we'll definitely do Take-Two. I'm going to do Take-Two because if I missed on Activision, and you guys were, a couple of you did ask for Activision. So we need to get in this sector a little bit. We need to talk about this. So somebody please remind me that I'm supposed to do. I'll put this in my little note here, actually. Take-Two. And we may have done them in the past, I think. EA had another great report, too. Let's look at EA. Oh, yeah. Man. If you guys aren't overweight NASDAQ in your own little personal thing, you know, I think everybody should be overweight NASDAQ. Because these tech stocks, man, they just keep coming up with ways to get more efficient and make more money. And it's awesome. Look at Facebook stalling out now. Little rally, now it's putting out. Apple didn't care at all. Didn't give. Look at, now this is crossed over. They didn't care about my stupid bearish divergence that I put there, right? They're like, we'll see your bearish divergence and bring you a rally here. Nintendo, man, I think Nintendo is garbage. They always come out, they're like the best hype machine, and they try to play on the nostalgia, because I think as far as brands are concerned, like, Nintendo was it in the 80s and 90s. Like, you had a Nintendo. Now, personal story, I had the Sega Master System. Not a lot of people had that. Not a lot of people remember that, because whenever you say Sega, people just assume Genesis. No. Prior to Genesis, there was a Sega Master System, which was an 8-bit system, just like the original NES. And everybody had an NES. All my friends had an NES, and my parents got me the Master System because they thought it was like sturdier or whatever. They just looked like it was less likely to break, which was good, because I probably would have broken it. But anyway, so Sega Master System worked fantastic, had it forever. But anyway, when everybody was talking about things, they were always talking about Nintendo, right? Everybody's got their Nintendo, and Nintendo is the brand, right? Super Mario is still Super Mario. Sonic the Hedgehog is like number 2 or 3. Like, it's just, you think Nintendo, you think Super Mario, you think Zelda before you start thinking about Sega stuff. Anyway, so Nintendo has this tendency where they come out with this. They had their stupid partnership with the Pokemon thing, right? And the thing skyrockets, and then they start talking about their new system that's going to come out, and it's all gimmicky, though. Everything's all gimmicky with Nintendo. And so they get like the PR, they get like the boost, it like runs up, but then there's not really any substance to them, right? They have this new gaming system that's coming out, but nobody's getting that gaming system, right? The Nintendo Switch or whatever. Like, who's buying the Switch? Like, nobody's getting that. Like, PC gaming, it's where it's at. When you get older, when you grow up, you start getting into PC gaming. Like, that's just what happens. Kurt, I have a ColecoVision. I got Donkey Kong, Zaxxon, and that's it. I have 2 games for the ColecoVision. My friend, my pops had it, and that's it. Donkey Kong and Zaxxon. And the big old, like, it had numbers on the controller, like this huge little joystick. That was cool, man. ColecoVision, yeah. Anyway, so that's where we're at with this. What was the other one? I thought I had one more. It was definitely Zaxxon, Donkey Kong. Now it's going to bother me trying to figure out what that other game was I thought we had. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we only had 2. Anyway. So part of the reason why NVIDIA is doing so good is that there's this transition towards PC gaming, and then they're finding a way to sort of blend the PCs and the consoles, which is why Microsoft has been doing this thing where you buy the game for Xbox and then you could also play it on your PC. You get a downloadable version for the PC, right? So starting to blend all this together quite nicely. Okay. All right, so what do we have for the rest of the week, my friends? What's today? Today's Wednesday. I got a big day. I hate Wednesdays. I have to do my home run investor, and it takes a long time because it's, I do it once a week, so it's a real big thing. So it's like having a really big report every Wednesday, which is fine, but it just, you got to get in the zone. You got to get real serious on a Wednesday. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Nordstrom. So we're going to get right back into retail. We've done all right with retail, which is why I wanted to go back into them. Nordstrom Rack, they've turned it around a little bit. So that'll be good. I've been reading about some of these retailers that have kind of found a way to combat. So like the Lands' Ends of the world, I think, finding a way to kind of fight back against Amazon. Is Snap a good candidate for the bullish move in tech? I think Snap is going to be uncorrelated to the rest of the market. I think this is going to be one of those stocks that just does its own thing. And I don't know how. If they start, let's see how this report is. If this Snap report comes out and they can establish themselves amongst the names, like, should we be saying Snap in the same breath as Twitter and Facebook, like proper? And I think they would be able to establish themselves. Then all of a sudden, obviously the stock would go bonkers, but then it would move more with the overall market. But right now, they're so just young, and they haven't even had an earnings report. The market's not taking them seriously yet. Yeah, Abercrombie and Fitch had a nice little move to the upside. I think maybe we're going to start to see retailers, this overall kind of negativity on retail, maybe starting to subside for a select few. Whereas before, it didn't matter. Any retailer, you could just come out and short and make money. Now I think this is when some of those bears are going to get burned. And some of these guys are starting to crawl out, which is good because you need that. Burn the forest down, and then let's see who rises up out of the ashes. So a couple of these companies starting to rise up a little bit. So we'll see. There's still a lot of people out there that want these retailers to do good. And I've heard a lot of arguments, especially on the value side of things, where they're like, retail's not going away anytime soon. Like, we still going to go to the mall. Like, don't forget about the American consumer, and that's right. However, you got to look at the sheer amount of retail space there is here in the U.S. compared to everywhere else, and it's just absurd. We just have more retail space per capita, like by a magnitude of the other countries in the world. So there's just too much retail space, and then you got this huge online presence. It's just a recipe for disaster. Okay, and then so the way that some of these retailers operate just doesn't make sense. They cut back on all the hours and everything, and then it's like, it's just terrible. So you get crappy service at these places that are supposed to deliver better service, and then they wonder why they're not making money. So anyway, all right, folks, that's all I've got for you here today on Zach's Live Trader. I want to thank you guys so much for sticking around, throwing out your questions, because I can't do this thing without you. So thank you so much for hanging in there and shooting me questions and keeping me occupied, keeping my mind off of my Nvidia stupidity, so I can feel better about myself. So thank you for that. And remember, tomorrow is Nordstrom, and we'll understand the fate of Snap. So that will all be good and well. Remember to shoot me those suggestions for what earnings videos you want to see. livetrader@zax.com. Go ahead and shoot those over there, and I will gladly try and do as many of your suggestions as possible. So thank you guys again so much for hanging out with me here again today, and I will see you all mañana. Have a good one.